welcome to our WIGI-pedia. And this is being presented, as many of you know, by women in the golf industry. We affectionately call WIGI, which is WIGI. My name is Kay McMahon, and I'm the president of Women in the Golf Industry. And I want to welcome our members and many of our guests who have joined us today. We are definitely thrilled to have you here. Because this has been just an absolutely fabulous turnout, because we have a lot to talk about with these three gentlemen, and I'll be introducing in a little bit. But let me first tell you a little bit about WIGI. This is the 25th year, or the 25th anniversary, and the mission of WIGI is basically to bring and create sustainable connections for women in the golf industry as resources and support for each other. It's the sole mission of that, and it's to have a stronger voice in the industry. We want to thank you all for your interest in being here today. So let me tell you a little bit about WIGI-pedia, is what we call it, which is our educational series, 3 men and a perspective. So I have a funny feeling it'd be 3 men and 3 perspectives, but we're just calling it a definite perspective. We have a unique approach, and the idea came about because we want to hear what they have to say. But we're very thrilled to have 3 very distinguished and well-respected and well-renowned leaders in the golf industry join us today. And I'm sure we're going to have a lively and a very candid discussion. WIGI and the board believe that this is an important topic, but we believe that the conversation about women's leadership should happen with everyone at the table sharing valuable insights. So the conversations oftentimes, as we all know, because we've been on our getting to know you calls and other WIGI-pedias, stories always kind of sound the same. And sometimes we're all a little too familiar with it. And we thought it was time to open up the dialogue and hear what they have to say, and we're from their perspective. We are definitely flipping the lens around, and our discussion today will be centered around their view from their side of, as we call, the fairway. And we're going to talk about leadership, careers, inclusion, challenges, some successes, and the cultural biases regarding women in the golf industry. So some of the topics are going to be a little pointed, but we want to hear what they have to say. Let me introduce our distinguished guest, and I will say very personal friends that I have known many of them, all of them, for, I shouldn't say many of them, the 3 of them for many years, but we won't go into how many years we've all known each other. I'm going to start alphabetically with Tom Addis, who I've known for a number of years. He's a former PGA of America national president, former CEO of the Southern California PGA section. And as I said, I've known Tom for many years, and I'll say since back in the day at Singing Hills Resort in San Diego, when I talk about my formative years in the LPGA and PGA when we were all getting started and we thought we were hotshot players. He hosted many workshops and got me introduced to many of the greats and the legends in the industry from the LPGA and the PGA. That included not only Dr. Gary Wyron, but the likes of Shirley Spork and Marilyn Smith, the founders of the LPGA. There were names like Shirley Engelhorn, Jackie Pung, Joanne Winter, and I will say many more legends that we all were there at Singing Hills for many of the years, and we can go back and Tom and I can talk about this. So at that time, and I was very fortunate to be there, it was all about sharing information. So Tom's in sunny California, Southern California, and I'm up here in upstate New York now. But so welcome, Tom. Would you like to say a couple words, and then I'll introduce the other 2 guests.
Yeah, thank you, Kay. And it's certainly nice to be here. And I see a few familiar faces out there, so that's kind of cool. And we'll appreciate the time and look forward to the conversation from everyone. Thanks.
Great. All right, so our next guest is John Glozek. He's the publisher of the New York Golf Magazine, and he's also president of the International Network of Golf, better known as ING. John has very generously, in his last edition, published a 6-page super article in his New York Golf Magazine about WIGI, and it included and it showed the depth and the diversity and the strong career leaders that we have in WIGI, or Women in the Golf Industry, which has been absolutely fabulous. And we'll put that in the chat, because if you haven't seen the magazine, it's an absolutely fabulous magazine. And he did a great spread also on the Ryder Cup. So John, welcome. And I'm sure you're not in upstate New York, so you're in sunny Florida, which was cold a couple of days ago. So John.
Yeah, well, I was in Florida. I'm now on Long Island, so I'm in 1.5 feet of snow, just like probably you are and Derek. So it's like exciting still, but I'm inside. I head back to Florida on Sunday, so I had 75, 80 degrees, but live about 8 miles from Bethpage, and happy to be here and looking forward to see a great group. There's like 35 people on the Zoom now, so wonderful to have this conversation. And thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate that. And our third guest is another very good friend, Derek Sprague. And just a little bit about him, and I could go on about all these guys with all their accolades and what they have done in the industry. Derek is a former PGA of America national president, and he's also the former CEO of the PGA of America. And when I first met him, he was the Northeastern New York PGA section president, where I had the privilege of meeting him and watching and admired his leadership style and grace in everything he did, because he always went back to the core and it was always about the members, and I will never forget that. I'm going to start out by asking you just a simple question and also saying hello, but I often heard an interview where you were asked the question of what was your best hire. So I'm going to start, he's smiling already, and I know the answer, but I want you to share that with the audience today. So welcome, Derek, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here. And I know you're up here in the snow with me.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, we got above freezing today, right? So my best hire was Tracy Warner, female at Northeastern New York, executive director. I think she's going on either year 24 or 25 now. Kay, when I spoke to her at the show, and just a remarkable career that she's had. And I remember, and sometimes, people need a chance, they need a break, right? And she was sort of our assistant executive director working under Dan Jericho at the time. And then he departed and moved out of the area. And I saw something in Tracy that I said, she's a winner. And we hired her, and here we are, like I said, 24, 25 years later.
No, it's great. And she was the only woman in the 41 sections to be executive director. And when you became national president, then it's my understanding too, then she was the president of the Directors Association.
Yeah, like the chair of the EDs. Yep. So she attended our national board meetings and stuff like that. So.
But let me just start out with, I will then again say, all of you guys have many accolades, and I've looked at Tom and I've got his wallpaper behind him and all the awards he's had. And Derek, I'm sure that in your office you've got as many awards behind you, but right now your blank wall is there, but it's okay. Basic thing I really want to say, and why you were chosen and why I wanted to do this, and you all responded to me immediately, is that you have been for years consistently supportive of women in the industry, which I think has been really outstanding. And so you've all been a friend of that and helped many people along in their careers. What I'd like to do is we want to talk about your insights about what's working in the industry for women, what hasn't, what needs to change. And today is not about putting anybody on the spot, but I want to promise I will play nice and I'll ask a few questions, but there won't be any two-stroke penalties, okay? So with that, I'm going to start out by saying that oftentimes in these conversations that we've had with women in the golf industry, we talk about the barriers that have been the barriers and the challenges that we have. And oftentimes we hear that many women have been overlooked. Even though they're overqualified or they're very qualified, there's cultural biases, and there's actually, as you well know, challenges of being predominantly in a male industry. So I'm going to start with an easy subject and ask, and maybe I'll start with you, Derek, of how do you see the challenges or the barriers that we are facing? And then we can kind of get into the solutions later on and just see what challenges you see from your perspective or your side of the fairway, as I said.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Kay, I've been a big proponent of hiring women in the workplace. Going back to Malone, my restaurant manager and my executive chef were both females. And then when I went down to TPC Sawgrass, we had a number of female managers and directors in key roles there as well. They bring the women that I've employed bring a unique perspective, just like Tracy Warner did. They have, they seem to have a little fight in them. Maybe they feel like they're the underdog. I love hiring the underdog, and because I know they're gonna work harder, not necessarily longer hours, but and my job as a leader, as I've always thought, my job as a leader is not as a manager, but a leader is to bring out that potential, right? And I can remember after hiring Tracy, for example, in Northeast New York, giving her the confidence to be a leader as well, and sometimes the confidence is not that far off, and having another leader that gives that individual the confidence will help break down those barriers that you talk about. When they walk in a room and they have a little bit of a confidence about them, that's going to help them get over those barriers. If someone walks into a room or to an interview and they don't have that confidence, they're not going to portray the confidence for that employer to say, really, can I turn over my operation to this individual? And Tracy was close, and I think I helped her with that confidence early on in my 2 years, and here she is 24 years later. And same with the other women that I've employed, is just instilling that confidence and make sure for any women that are on the call today is to have that confidence, be a subject matter expert that you can talk about, and hopefully you'll go to work for an employer that will see that spark inside you and give you that opportunity. But you need to have the confidence to give them the confidence of hiring you to begin with.
It's kind of a big circle, isn't it? It's which
Yeah.
first, yeah, exactly.
That's right.
But yeah, you gave her a big chance, and she probably didn't have the confidence at first. But again, as we talk about mentorship or sponsorship of helping people along in their career, and she's really grown into the position.
Right.
Let me toss this to Tom and get your feedback on what do you think is the barriers, and what have you experienced from your perspective?
Thanks. That's a great start. I've never felt at all that barriers exist with it, whether it be women, regardless of who the person is, and especially women. In fact, I look at the scene right now, and two superstars who I can see, who I've had the distinct honor and pleasure to work with, and that's Holly Kennedy and Nikki Gatch, that I can see right now on the screen, who exemplify women in golf, if you will, and never even looked at it as having any barriers. And with the strength being, and this is why I feel very strongly, the detail aspect, knowing what details, paying attention to details. Like Derek said, the confidence factor. Also, what's really, really important is setting an example. And Nikki and Holly have done that throughout their career. Had the honor of working with Holly 30 years ago, starting with Holly 30 years ago, and Nikki over 20 years ago. And never have I seen examples, strong examples, and great examples as those two women. And I'm proud of that, and they should be proud of themselves. I know there's a couple of others on the talk today that I can't see, but I think, again, details. There are no barriers. Don't create barriers, and don't even think that there are barriers, and don't believe that there are barriers, because there aren't. Everyone has the same opportunity. Again, if you practice with that confidence, if you pay attention to detail, and you set that example, then anyone will go far.
Well, it's really kind of interesting, because when you step down as the CEO of the Southern California section, you got Nikki in there right behind you. So again, very supportive of women, and she's a great leader, as you said. So I like the detail. We're going to come back to the word confidence in a bit. But John, go ahead. I dare you to follow all that up.
I'm kind of on the same side of the fairway as Tom is. I've never felt there was a barrier. In my world, publishing 2 golf magazines, I've featured women on the cover. I have women on a regular basis in the magazine, and instead of a barrier, I think they have a huge opportunity. More often than not, and to be left nameless, but I have more of a challenge having men in my magazine because they always seem they're too busy or don't think it's important enough, or they have other things to do. Whereas, like, as an example, I could take Kelly Brook, who's over the director of golf at Bethpage. She's handling 5 facilities, and I have her in every single issue. I get her content on time, all the time, and it goes along with being that assertive. I think if these women are confident and assertive and take it as an opportunity instead of a barrier, whether it's in my magazine or in business or growing a business or trying to move along in their career, whether they're well along into the career or starting a business, there's an opportunity there. And I don't think you have 3 men on this panel here that are on the women's side of the fairway. So it's interesting that, you have to us, there is no barrier. How do we make it happen? How do we enjoy the opportunity to work with women? We enjoy the opportunity to be a part of what they're doing and have open arms to accept that and want to help them in any way possible. So I think part of it is when that door opens, walk in and move forward. And, there's guys out there that will help you. And there's also ladies out there that will help. I mean, we're all in this together. We're in the golf business, and, which is pretty good to be in, and, use the opportunity to grow.
John, I like what you said. The word being assertive is so important. That's cool. That was a great word.
Kind of coming from the women's perspective, sometimes they take, when we're assertive, they think we're too aggressive. So sometimes that cultural bias tends to be not just in the golf industry, it tends to be kind of a global bias of what that would be. So there's a fine line, and I'll just speak for a lot of women that we hear. Sometimes we think that they're barriers, but they're opportunities. And I can even say from being a woman golf professional, that at least we get to stand out. When I got to my PGA status, there was 250 men in the Southern California section that stood up and congratulated me as one of the first women in the PGA. So, but at least I wasn't wearing my navy blue jacket and khaki pants. So I did stand out. So I can tease them a little bit.
I could add to that. I mean, being assertive, I think, yes, it's a strong word and maybe misrepresented, but assertive and polite, or assertive and pleasant. I mean, we want to do business with people we like and develop a relationship.
I think you bring up a very good point, because one of the questions I was going to ask is, there are a lot of women in the industry who have made their mark or advanced in their careers. What do you think differentiates those women that have kind of gotten through some of those barriers or some of the obstacles without being too, let's say, they've just gotten, what do you think is the differentiating points of those women and some women that feel that they haven't gotten through some of those barriers? Because they are real out here, I will say that. And it'd be lucky if we had 3 guys like you that we could work for all the time. But go ahead. The toss-up question.
Yeah, that's another good one. I think I'll go back to setting a great example. And if a woman comes into a business, or anybody comes into a business and sets a great example for everyone else, sets a great example for the customer, sets a great example for management, that person's going to go far. And I think that's something that is so critical. Stick-to-itiveness, ensuring that a person, you stick to what your beliefs are. And of course you can be flexible, but stick-to-itiveness and doing the job and what your beliefs, I think, are so important. But setting that example, paying attention to those details, customer service and friendliness is obvious. Saying a lot, and I won't take much longer, but I always tell this story that my father, we were talking one day. My father was a PGA member as well, and we were talking about how to conduct yourself. And my dad always told me, and I'm shortening this story, if there's two of you walking down, if there's two people walking down the sidewalk, coming together, facing each other, you only need to say one word to that person, and that's hello. And that's stuck with me forever, especially in business, of saying hello. And then one of my owners at Singing Hills, when I was leaving, and I appreciate so much what they do, he said, Tom, all you need to do is say thank you. I've lived by those two words, hello and thank you. And I think anyone can be a success if they fit, again, the example and the details and everything else between those two words. That's how I view things.
That's pretty awesome. It sounded like Derek wanted to say something on that.
Yeah,
too.
I think the we touched on the word confidence and assertiveness, and I'll give you a story as well. Is when I hired the restaurant manager at my first club in Malone, I was waiting for her to show up for her interview, and I ran to the men's room, and this lady walked in, and she walked with confidence. She had great presence about her, and I remember going to the restroom, and I said, boy, I hope that's the candidate, because I didn't even say one word to this person, but just how they carried themselves. So confidence isn't just saying what you know or who you know or whatever. It's how you carry yourself. And I think what John, Tom, and I are saying, this is for both males and females. But I think females, with some of the inherent barriers out there that you referenced, Kay, just needs to be more conscious of some of these things. And that's going to give them the upper edge. If I have a male and a female walk in, and that female walks in with confidence and portrays themselves and is prepared for the interview, compared to a male counterpart with let's say the same credentials, and they walk in and they don't have a lot of confidence, and their posture is not professional, or as Tom said, ready to show that they're ready to work or whatever. I'm gonna take the female candidate all day long. So it goes back to that borderline of confidence versus cocky, assertiveness versus aggressiveness. But women have a real opportunity in not only in this industry, but all industries, just with some of the things that we're saying. And I encourage a lot of women in the industry, in the golf industry in particular, to really reach out to mentors like John or Tom or myself, to give them that little bit of confidence that they may need, or a little preparation for an interview or a job, or sometimes challenging managers, supervisors, or whatever, of how they can turn the corner and sort of build their brand at that facility or at that business that they may be at. So you've done it, Kay, as well. You've been your own cheerleader, but you've probably worked with mentors over the years to learn, right? You're going to all sorts of educational conferences, and it's the networking that you learn just from observing and talking to others that will help you with that confidence and giving you those little nuggets to be successful.
Well, I can piggyback a little bit on that, because I'll go back to Shirley Spork. So when we thought we were hotshot players and hotshot teachers or whatever, and we were questioning, like, what are you doing with all this stuff? And she just kind of kept nudging me forward and trying to get me into leadership positions and stuff to ask some of the right questions and then to feel confident. But it's kind of like how you want to play golf. You want to walk into the golf course like you feel pretty confident. You might be shaking in your boots at that first U.S. Open or something like that, but you still have to kind of look like you should be there. But going back to a couple of things of what you guys have said, and oftentimes, and this isn't bad, we talk about the good old boys network. And I think there's some tricks in the trade that we talk about networking and making opportunities in the network. And then I think the second part of my question or statement would be that you talk about that, should I call you, or I could have called John, or I could call Tom, which I feel comfortable doing that. But a lot of women don't feel comfortable in reaching out and getting advice or just asking for those resources. I don't know if you want to touch on that, because you've all come up through leadership, so you also had to have mentors or people that helped you on your career too? Because I'm sure that at times you weren't confident.
PGA and LPGA professionals want to help one another, and they want to help each other be successful. I've had so many people reach out to me on LinkedIn over the years, or they get my email or my cell number, and I will take that call. It might not happen at that moment, but I'll set something up when it's mutually convenient. But we're here, most people want to help others, and especially in the PGA and the LPGA. So for any of the listeners that are on today, don't be bashful, reach out. I've said in other sessions, like if you want to get on a committee in one of our 41 sections, and you're not getting there, reach out to me. You reach out to Tom. I'm sure he would do it. John, you're probably not as connected to the 41 sections, but
Right.
Tom and I will pick up the phone call. I'm putting you on the spot here, Tom, and we'll call that section president and we'll say, give Kay a chance. Give Nikki a chance or whatever. Put those individuals on a committee. They won't let you down. And that's what we had to do when I was in office in the PGA is I said, we have to tap people on the shoulder. And sometimes they're aloof to it, right? And they don't realize they're doing it unconsciously. And it's our job as leaders to make it conscious and to make sure that we're giving everybody a fair shake.
I look at the women on the screen here, and I don't know a lot of you, but I know who you are and what you've done, and you're all successes, and you've all either tapped somebody on the shoulder or you've been tapped yourself on the shoulder. Well, one thing that you've done, and I think this is something that helps us all, men or women, and in particular women in the industry, is to step forward. We've talked a lot about setting the example and the confidence and being assertive. Stepping forward is sort of an assertion, or being assertive. And I think every one of you have done that. Every one of you in your profession, in the golf profession, have, whatever part of the profession you are, have taken the lead and stepped forward. And we can't be bashful about that. That's what's going to help us be a success in the industry, and be a leader in the industry. And that's something that helps us grow also. Take some confidence, yes, but it's so critical. If the opportunity's there, take it. And it fits, and the opportunity's there, step forward to take it. That's something that I see in all of you, basically. And it's very appreciative to know that and to see that. And I think that's something that leads to success, is stepping forward and not being afraid to do so.
Visit our website at womeninthegolfindustry.com. It's all about participation. And, we used to stand back and think we had to keep all the secrets. And then, with the mentors that I had, they kept kind of pushing you towards the front of the room. And the more you participated, the more you shared, the more you got back. And I had great, from Shirley Spork to Pat Lang to a whole bunch of other ones. But John, you had something to say too.
It goes back to, I think not knowing something is not the problem, but not asking for help could be the problem. There's nothing wrong whether you're asking another woman or a man, or going back to my early days as a musician in the drum world. I had a mentor and a drum instructor almost my entire life. You're always learning as a musician, and it kind of runs parallel to the golf world, where there's golf instructors and you can have plenty of golf lessons. And I always say selling a drum set was just like selling a set of clubs, or selling a pair of drumsticks. It's just like selling a sleeve of golf balls. The industries are very similar, where you both have coaches, mentors, and I think you need to ask and have that person and persons at your side that you could turn to and ask, and don't even hesitate to ask, because they're there to help and they want to see you be successful and succeed.
Okay, I just want to add one thing, whether it's a mentor
add as much as you want.
or a supervisor or a manager, because this really resonated last year. Career pathing at headquarters of the PGA of America has been a hot button for a couple of years there, and we used to call them Team Connects, where I would speak to the entire staff. And one thing that I said at 2 or 3 all staff calls in a row was that sometimes your career path it may be outside the organization. And a lot of people think that, and maybe some on this call think that, well, I'm not getting promoted, or I'm not getting the role that I think I should have at this particular facility or this particular section or whatever. And, one, you need to have a good supervisor, manager, or a leader within that organization that will give you the opportunity to grow professionally. And that doesn't always happen in businesses. And I've mentored a lot of young people, males and females, that your career path may be with a different organization. And that is like, when I said that on these Team Connects, they're saying, you want me to leave the PGA of America? I've been working here for 7 years or 8 years. And I'd sit there and say, okay, let's just, on the surface, let's look at your senior director, and then, or your director, then your senior director. You have 2 or 3 steps to get to where you want to be. These people probably aren't going anywhere for another 5 to 10 years. If you want to wait out 10 years, right? And we see this in the golf industry, right? I'm going to wait for the head pro to retire. Well, okay, the head pro just got the head pro job. They might be here for 20 more years, right? So are you going to wait, or are you going to look outside that organization? So when you're looking outside the organization, make sure you're looking for, you should be interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. Make sure you find the right person that will let you grow professionally. That's a great question to ask in an interview, is what does my growth or my career path look like at XYZ club or company? And make sure that they support your professional growth, and make sure that the wider organization, and you can tell, I'm sure John and Tom and many on this call, you can walk into a facility or a section office or a business, right? Just a business that you might do every day, grocery shopping, and you can tell that they got good leaders in this business. People have the employees have smiles on their faces. They enjoy being there. That's where you want to go work, right? If you go to a business and it's grumpy pants all over the place, you don't want to go to work there. So just remember that it may be outside your organization, but also you need to look not only for mentors, those are very important, but when you're looking for a career path, find the right company and leader to follow. We see this in instruction a lot. Kay, you're a big time instructor, right? Right. And it's probably, John, you could probably touch on this with musicians, right? You're going to follow a great drummer. You're going to follow a great instructor. If you want to be a great instructor, you got to follow a great instructor that's going to help you get to the next level. John, you want to be a great drummer, right? You got to listen to great drummers, and you got to learn from great drummers.
Finding those people. And I had, I'll go back to one of my first interviews a long time ago. And the interview was, well, okay, we think we'll hire you as an experiment in the shop. Which I'm going to go there. Well, at that time I was probably about 22, 25, and I almost jumped across the desk at him like, what do you really mean? Well, they did hire me finally, and I was there for 10 years later, and it was one of the best bosses I ever had. It wasn't a stellar start, but we got through all that. So one of the things I was going to ask, do you think that there's been a change in the industry of how they think about women in the industry? If so, what kind of changes do you think that has happened? And are we getting there fast enough?
It's challenging, but it's never going to be fast enough. We want to, we always want to be somewhere down the road sooner than later. But I think we're a lot better off than we were 10 years ago, and we're certainly a lot better off than we were 25 or 30 years ago. It's just, it wasn't that long ago that the iPhone didn't exist, and now we have AI. I mean, it's like you wake up one day and the whole world changes, and now it's really accelerating really quick with technology, equipment. We have 35 women on this Zoom panel today. I mean, which is absolutely incredible. And WIGI didn't exist several years ago. So, we're moving in the right direction. But to your point, it's never fast enough. I wish I was a better golfer, and that didn't happen fast enough.
On the call that been to a PGA national meeting, and we sort of started this call, Kay, talking about Tracy Warner. I think Kathy Wilkes was, Lone Ranger. She was the executive director of the Southwest section, and then Tracy. We only had one or two females as EDs. I don't know what the number is today, but I think it's about a third of our sections just in the last 10 years now are led by female executive directors, as one example. But to John's point, it's never fast enough. And I think John touched on this, or it was Tom. I still see incredible opportunity out there. And I think with some of the things that we've shared today, it's just finding those opportunities and finding the people that will help you find those opportunities, whether it's a mentor or a current supervisor or a former supervisor, right? Kay, like, I don't know if that person that you work for is still around, but I'm sure they would still help you, like if they needed a door open. So you got to find the right people, surround yourself with the right people. There's plenty of opportunities out there. And I think to your question, Kay, the industry is changing for the better. I think both males and females, with the success since 2020 with full tee sheets and full memberships, it's allowed clubs to the ones that have good leaders have embraced, hey, we're not going to work 80, 90, 100 hours anymore. We need to have a little bit more balance in our lives. And I think they're also seeing, the successful leaders and clubs are seeing that more women and a more diverse workforce, that obviously John, Tom, and I embrace a diverse workforce, women and people of color, makes the club or the facility stronger. It makes the industry stronger. So you gotta surround yourself with people like that will help you open those doors and seek, and get those opportunities that are out there.
He also mentions, Derek says, surround yourself with people. I also think you could go ask people that are outside of your circle. And if there's somebody you admire or look up to, and like, he said about, when I was playing drums, if I want to be like another drummer, I have to go search them out. And I've done that my whole life. And it's basically either an email or a phone call and who you hear back from. And all of a sudden you never know what's going to happen. And a wonderful relationship is possible. But I don't think anybody should think that they can't call somebody else.
If you don't have that confidence even to send an email, like we put our emails there in the chat, if you don't have that confidence to send an email, we're not going to bite. Just send us an email. We'll try to help you the best we can. But that's just a little bit of a confidence just to send that email, or like you're saying, John, pick up the phone or text or whatever and reach out.
There's been growth. Is it fast enough? No. I think we've seen some tremendous change and growth in governance. As Derek mentioned, and the numbers of women EDs in the PGA of America has increased dramatically over the last few years. Leadership in associations, leadership individually by women has grown dramatically. Just let's take the Southern California Golf Association as an example. Nikki being a past president, Nikki was the first woman president of the Southern California Golf Association. She was also the first PGA member president of the Southern California Golf Association. This year, a woman was elected president of the Southern California Golf Association. So we see that growth, the PGA as well. And we see that growth, but is it enough? I don't believe it is. There needs to be more, really more involvement, more engagement. And it's not only going out and tapping somebody on the shoulder. I believe everybody has to step forward themselves as well, and move themselves into leadership. I said that a few minutes ago, stepping forward to get it done. And I think that's absolutely critical to our success in this industry. And I think that it's there. Again, I look at everyone that I can see on this meeting, and I recognize many of you as leaders in the industry. You've stepped forward, whether it's golf instruction, coaching, whatever it might be, and I commend you for that. And we need more women to do the same. We look at junior golf and the participation as an example. In junior golf, yes, it's increasing. Is it increasing fast enough in regards to junior girls? No, I don't believe it is. It's a lot of work. It's a campaign to get it done, but we have to continue to put ourselves in the middle of that recruitment effort, if you will, and continue to do everything we can to build the game from the grassroots, as that old saying goes. So we need to continue to work very, very hard in many different ways. I know it's a general statement, to continue the growth and accelerate the growth, in my opinion.
And this scenario of the challenges for women are not only in the golf industry. I mean, this is in society. This goes across the board to women in business, women in the music industry, women in sports, you name it. I mean, this is a conversation that almost every topic can have. You know, we just happen to be in the golf business talking about it, but this is across the board in society in many ways.
Yeah, the question in the chat is, how can we, hold accountable the people in the hiring and training positions, often men, so the system changes too. And John, you just alluded, it's every industry. There's been, for the last 10 plus years, different organizations in sports, different industries, making a conscious effort for DE&I initiatives of people of color and women and getting more involved. And I think, just like we've all said here, like just at the PGA of America in the last 10 years or so, we've gone from 1 or 2 female executive directors, which is the top job at these sections, to about a third of the 41 sections now have females in the top jobs there, like a Nikki in Southern Cal. So, and then that will help because Nikki will naturally, I'm putting you on the spot, Nikki, it'll naturally put you on the spot that, hey, when you have 2 candidates, a male and a female, you're probably going to unconsciously say, yeah, I'd love to have another female here to help grow and have more influence with women in the Southern Cal section. Obviously, if it's a tie, I would think you would do that. My first hire at the PGA of America last September was a female chief administrative officer, because one, that was a conscious decision. One, she's a great candidate and a great leader, but I wanted a female in that position. Again, just my wanting to help. Sort of to what Melissa's question was here is, you need to, and sort of what I said earlier, you need to find the right businesses, the right companies, and the right leaders that are supportive of these initiatives, and you got to get with them. And as we continue to get more women in these leadership positions, it'll continue to grow. And as John said, it's never fast enough, but we're I think we're in a great time, at least in the golf industry, with high growth, high needs for more women in golf, which will, to Tom's point, it'll help, young female golfers that want to take up the game. When they see someone that looks like them, they're going to be more inclined to, I want to go play golf. I want to take lessons from Kay, for example, because she's a female, and I feel comfortable around there. I can tell you my junior clinics back in Malone, my daughter used to help me. She was probably 12, 13, 14 years old. And I had these massive junior programs. And my daughter was like a magnet to all the girls. We had a girls' camp in the Adirondacks here that they brought 50 girls to junior clinics. And my daughter was like a magnet. If she walked on the other side of the range, all the girls would follow her over there. There were very few boys that went to that camp. But it was just, again, as we put women in these leadership positions, we're going to continue to grow. And that's going to be positive for the industry.
I think you make a very good point. I will say, you're right. There's advantages about being a woman in the golf industry, and so we're not just about professionals too. Because in women in the golf industry for WIGI, we have women that are architects. We have media people. We have one of my favorite ladies is the sand lady that sells sand to people, and we've got other people that are in maintenance and all whatever, golf course architects. But let me kind of turn the tables a little bit and say, okay, we've all come up against walls or sometimes roadblocks, or sometimes the question, even in any industry, is how to manage up or how to manage your manager. And I'm sure that each of you, somewhere in your career, even though your careers have all blossomed to where you are, Blossom is probably a female word, but anyways, you've all blossomed. You're like the peacock fluffing your feathers. But how did you handle roadblocks or walls from a male perspective? Because sometimes you've had to have roadblocks. And just as your experiences, what would they have been and how did you handle them?
I came in a different perspective from being a musician most of my life. I mean, I practiced every day, all the time, whether it's 5, 6, 8 hours a day. And the road, I grew up with the challenges of always trying to be better. So and even in golf, and you practice to be better. So not that I had any boss that I had a challenge with. I think what might be important is be yourself. Whoever you are, be yourself. This is not you don't need to be a sales pitch or sell somebody. If you're going to develop relationships, you're going to work with people you like or be around people you like. But I just never had that challenge. I mean, I liked my bosses that I had, the very few, because I mean, once I guess maybe the only bosses I had was when I was working in a band. Someone who was a band leader. So yeah, they wanted something, you wanted to play a certain way, and that was it. But from a work perspective, I started a drum magazine really early in my life, and then I started a golf magazine really early in my life. So I owned both of those companies. Challenges were from the inside, and maybe that's where some of the people on the Zoom today think their challenges are their maybe not feeling confident, which we've already talked about, and just be yourself, have a goal. And whatever that goal is, don't stop until you get it.
I like sharing this story. I don't know the exact day, but I know the year. I had a president back at Malone Golf Club. So I probably was maybe 25 or 26. I got hired right out of college and was the GM at age 21, 22 years old. And I can remember, sort of to your comment, Kay, or your question was, I was sitting in the boardroom and I was telling them how great I was or whatever. And this president that we had at the time, he was a real administrator type individual. And he was at the head of the table and he looks up at me and he says, "That's what we pay you to do." So the message I took from that was, Derek, just keep your head down, do your job. It's sort of what John was just saying, do it very well and people will notice. And from that moment on, I just kept my head down, did my job, and hoped people would notice. But I didn't go out, and I wasn't the used car salesman trying to make myself something more than I actually was. I just did my job, and I was fortunate that I had the right employers that recognize it. And that's why I feel so strongly to make sure that if you're not in a good employment situation, you may have to jump ship, as crazy as that sounds to some of you, but get the right employer, get the right leader, get the right company that will support you. And I got a 30-year-old daughter. She's a school teacher. I give her the same advice. Make sure that you work at a school with a great principal and a superintendent that supports special education teachers. Not all principals and superintendents understand special ed as a unique skill set, but again, you got to have the right people above you that will recognize you, understand what you're contributing, and as long as you're doing your job, those leaders will recognize you, the good ones.
I'll go back to my words that I said earlier, and that's continue to step forward. Continue to move yourself forward. If you can jump that roadblock, if there is one, if you do that. I like the word that John used was perseverance, and perseverance to me is the same as stepping forward and continuing that, but also applying yourself. If you feel someone or something is in your way, just apply yourself to be better. Apply yourself to do what is right, and that roadblock will suddenly, well, I shouldn't say suddenly, but it will disappear. You have to have the confidence to do so. You have to have the confidence to reach out to others that can help on that road and make your road more successful. So Again, not too many. I remember one time when I ran for PGA office, not to get selfish here, but I lost the first time. And I lost to Gary Shaw, and I should have. And it turned out to be great. But I had second thoughts when I lost that race because it was very, very close. And I said, I'm not going to do this again. Am I going to do that? I just don't know. Of course, my wife Susan came to me and said, yes, you are. But again, I thought to myself, okay, well, this was in 1988, by the way. And I ran again in 1990. I look upon myself, this is going to sound selfish, but I persevered. And I continued to make that step to be successful in that regard, and it was successful. And I'll always look upon that as really helping me in my professional career as well. And those of you in leadership, that's something that's really, really important, is it helps your success. Being aware of what's going on around you and creating success and being part of success helps you in your business as well. So I've always looked upon it in that manner as well. I may have sounded a little discombobulated in regards to the reasoning there, but that's it's just applying yourself and being and persevering, basically.
A word that I use with a lot of people that I mentor is control your own destiny, right? So that sort of goes to what Tom was talking about, and I think all of us are saying, and I see we have a lot of business owners here, is you have to be in control of your career, right? So you have to be assertive, you have to be confident, you have to sort of build your own brand and control your own destiny, and nobody's going to hand you anything, right? You have to do it. Nobody handed me anything. Nobody handed Tom anything. Nobody handed John anything. I mean, John, you had to learn to play the drums, right? Nobody just said, here you go, and all of a sudden you're going to be a great drummer. You had to put in the hard work to do it. So I think with all the business, or many business owners on this call, you know what hard work's all about. And it's just finding the right opportunities and the right nuggets, and participating in calls like you have here at Kay. You should be commended for putting this together. This is a start, right? And maybe you can share the whole list if these people don't know one another, and network. We put our contact info on here. So again, try to reach out to people and control your own destiny and build your own brand and your own success. Success is different for everybody.
A follow-up to that, the word's been used before, but stick-to-itiveness. You just have to stick with it, whatever it is. And you tell your students, you inform your students, you inform your mentoree, your staff, just stick to it. Be persistent, and it'll work. Obviously, you have to do right things, but you need to stick to what you're doing, and that's so important to all of us throughout our careers.
To open more doors is simple, is just to ask. And in my world, I publish 2 golf magazines, and there's about 40 women on this chat, that if you wanted to be in my magazine, featured in the magazine, you're going to have to just ask. There's nothing to be nervous about, or should I call him, or who's John, and there are many publications around the country that you might and could be in, but you need to ask. You have to take that first step and say, let me, I'm interested, and take that first step and ask. And if they say no, that's fine also, but at least you tried. And stick with your goal. Whatever the goal is, and say, hey, I want to be in a magazine, or I want to be featured, or I feel I have a value to work for somebody. Go after it, and don't let anything stop you from doing that.
Well, we could go on forever because you guys have been absolutely great. Let me see if I can summarize a little bit. I'm going to go back to what Tom said in the beginning about just reaching out and saying hello to somebody. So that's what you're talking about, is stick out your hand and just say, hi, my name is Kay, and I need a little advice, or I need a little help, or whatever, or I just want to meet you. So the other words that stick out to me were, you all said, I don't know how many times, confidence. And it's the same thing that we want to play in our golf games. So the idea is that, what you all said too, is if you feel like you're operating out of fear, reach out and ask somebody for help, or how to fix your golf game, or how to fix your leadership skills, or whatever you want to do, because everyone's out there that want to help, going back to what Derek said. So the other words that I heard was jump out and participate. And just something, get on a committee. It doesn't have to be in golf, it can be with WIGI. And I think the idea behind WIGI, that was started, like I said, 25 years ago, was that we want to just simply connect women in the golf industry, but we also want to hear from the men, because we're all in this together in the golf industry. And so it's about helping each other and the resources we have. Thank you very much to you three gentlemen. The reason I invited you was because basically you give a damn about us. So thank you very, very much. And your insights have been great. And let's give them, take all ourselves off mute and give them a big round of applause. So appreciate this, and we'll get everybody connected. We'll send out a list to everybody who's been on the call. So Derek, Tom, John, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah,
for the
thanks
time.
for having us.
Great to see you. Thanks.
Remember, before clicking off, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Remember to like this video, then share it, and also remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Women in the Golf Industry.